Good morning. Amazing start, by the way. And I don't know if that panel was meant to tee me up, but there was a lot of juicy things in there that I think is going to resonate with this presentation. And I know I'm standing between you and lunch, so we're going to do something a little bit different, as you can see on the screen. If you're not familiar with Kahoots, it's really just a gamified experience where I'm looking for some participation from everybody in the room in terms of answering a little bit of poll questions, providing feedback to me, and I'm going to do the best I can to, on the fly, configure my answers to where people are at currently with their incentive programs. So all you really have to do, scan that QR code with your phone or go to the website, kahoot.it, and enter in that code and you're good to go. It'll ask for your email address, if you can please provide your real one. And second, the alias can be anything you want. As I can see, oh, woohoo, I like it. As long as it's, I guess, corporate friendly. I'll give everyone just a couple of seconds to join. Okay, anybody still having issues or need to join? How are we all looking? Cool? All right, let's get into it. Oh, okay. I'm going. This is your last opportunity. Something I didn't mention, there is going to be prizes. I am with an incentive company after all, so there's money to be made, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, now I see people join. Okay, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Okay, so we are 11:05. So 3, 2, 1. What are we going to be talking about? Optimizing partner sales incentives and engagement. Now, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, as I mentioned. I'm going to have some content, of course. This is why everybody's here. I'm going to use some of that content that Diane over here has kind of teed everybody up with that awesome panel, as well as the great session by Trevor. And as Rob mentioned, we're doing some excellent things with ImPartner to make your workflows and your processes better. And then we're going to do a little bit of a mini health check. So basically what that means is, if you can be honest, how you feel about your incentive program, what's kind of working, what's not working. I'll try to provide some insight in terms of what you can do to walk away some actionable insights today. And then I mentioned there's some money to be made, and I'll let you know what that is in a couple of moments. So what are we talking about? Incentive programs can be defined in all kinds of different ways. I think we just talked about it's cooperative funds, MDF, margin protection. This all falls into the definition of a incentive program. And they're all important and they need to be focused on. But what I've noticed, and hopefully this aligns with where people's heads are at for this conversation, because you're stuck for the next 40 minutes. We're focusing on where organizations I see falter is engaging and capturing the mind share of individual sales reps, technical reps, customer success reps at your partners within your ecosystem. So I don't know if anybody is familiar with a book called Nearbound. It was a really good channel ecosystem book that came out recently. Any heads nodding? Sound familiar? At the beginning of that book, he talks about how in the early 2000s that data was the new oil. And yes, fact, people made a lot of money, Silicon Valley exploded. But in this era of ecosystems, AI, we couldn't be farther from the truth in terms of that very simple statement. There's too much information coming at us on a daily basis. And what I loved from that book, a specific phrase at the beginning was, trust is the new oil. So the people who surround your customers, so think of these reps, the customer success people, the engineers, the people who are talking to your customers on a daily basis, they're the ones who are that trusted advisor and are earning the trust of your end customers every single day. So that's where we're going to focus the discussion and spend time walking through a couple of processes. There's one on the screen right now, and also some, I guess, pillars you can implement to make some serious changes. So what is engagement? I read this morning, but I loved it. and I'm going to paraphrase it / steal it. Have you ever seen a program or run a program that on paper should have worked? Just raise your hands. It looked like, hey, this is, sales reps love money. Why isn't this going to work? It's frustrating. It's really common. The problem, too many companies focus on the transaction. They focus on their incentive program at the sales rep level as simply as a barter system. So you sell something, here's your spiff, good luck and go on your merry way. But there is a way to design a program that just doesn't say thank you. It's all about combining initiatives together that really reinforce that sales engagement and behavior that really matter, promote long-term relationships, and align your organizational strategy. Because when you think about you doing your business plan, why aren't you thinking about your incentive strategy the same way? Don't make it transactional, make it strategic. And think about the cultural differences of your partners. So the way that you can look at this engagement loop is if you think about the unengaged sales rep in your channel ecosystem right now, it all starts with relevant communication. So reps need to understand why they want to spend time in your program and why their sales efforts are worth their efforts and in terms of building pipeline. So that could be promotions, contests, things that you're sending them today. Second is education. So are you providing an easy, accessible, I'm going to steal bite-sized. This is really important. Sales reps are looking for a bite-sized value proposition training that's going to help them close deals that are right in front of their face. Not this long day-long experience where they have to get accredited for things that are not going to help them close deals. Once they're equipped to sell better, they're more likely to lead with your product. The incentives need to be flexible. So I think what was touched on in the last panel is the importance of not just understanding, is it a VAR, is it an MSP, is it a GSI? It's understanding their competency and being flexible on what meets their needs and what's going to help them close deals and make them feel grateful. And the last piece is ROI. So was it worth my time as a sales rep? But the money that you put into your program, the dollars that you fought so hard from your CFOs, can you justify it? You know, where did it go? And what kind of outcomes did it drive? And then you'll start to see, you know, an unengaged salesperson entering into this process over and over and over again. And really the secret sauce behind this is it's predictable, it's consistent, it's repeatable, and it's easy to understand. That's the secret sauce at the end of the day. Company to company, everyone can offer money to salespeople, but if it's not easy and repeatable, then that's where you're going to lose people. Honestly, I thought about this pretty hard, and we could spend days locked in this room, and I don't know how much you people would want to sit here and listen to me for days, and ImPartner wouldn't go for it. So I wanted to look at this in a different way and think about the engagement loop as that North Star so that everyone in this room can walk away with their own version of that loop, their own, using that as a template, and thinking about how you could look at these three things and grade yourself against where you stand today and how you improve yourself on the scale. So a few ways to think about, you know, these three pillars, and they're very broad for a reason. They're very strategic and nuanced because everybody's in a little bit of a different place than others. But the way that you can think about relevance as we go through this session is if you were to sit down hypothetically with your partner sales teams right now, how easy would it be? What would they say to you in terms of how easy it is to find your incentives, how meaningful they are, and how much it's helping them close deals? So if you were to rate yourself, kind of think about it that way. And how crisply could they articulate to that? Would they stumble? Would they be like, oh yeah, it's great, but you know, they're not really showing it? Repeatable at scale. This is something I hear really, I hear this often. So if you're currently running any sort of spiffs, contests, promotions, top achievers clubs to your ecosystem, think about what's working and think about, okay, how do I scale this and can I scale it? And think about maybe if I wanted to take something that works in North America with my VARs, but I want to really scale to Europe and I want to understand the governance and compliance challenges, the taxation challenges. Are you able to do that today? And do you think you'll be able to repeat the success you're getting in other parts of your business? And the last one, measure and monitor. We talked a lot about data up to this point. It's not even noon. But really understand, at the end of the day, how are you measuring your campaigns? So specifically, if you were to look at your top 10 partners, do you know every single one of those sales rep at those partners, what they're doing? Are they participating? Are they not participating? And how often are you measuring success in order to pivot when necessary to drive the outcomes you're looking to? Enough of that for a second. This is the real stuff. The next 3 slides after this is the real stuff. This is where you win some money. We're going to give a prize of $50 to the first place. Second place is $25, and third place is $15. So these questions that are coming up have nothing to do with the channel. Has everything to do with the beautiful city of San Francisco. So hopefully we're all on the same page in terms of our knowledge, but we're going to find out. And my shameless plug for the day, what we're doing at the end and for the next couple of weeks is we're conducting health checks. So we'll look at your process and workflows and spend a couple of hours with you to understand how we could improve parts of your incentive program when it comes to sales rep engagement. That's the real money. So if everyone has their fingers ready, fingers frosty, the next slide is going to be a question. Faster you answer, the more points you get. What is the name of the tower that sits at the top of Telegraph Hill? Is it Gold Rush Tower, Moscone Tower, Frisco Tower, or Coit Tower? 10 seconds. No cheating. Yeah, the faster you go, the more points you get. Oh, impressive. Okay, we got some knowledgeable people here. See the leaderboard. Ray. Where's Ray? Oh, everyone go for Ray. Second question. The Golden Gate Bridge was completed in what year? 1925, 1937, 1939, 1945. Fun fact, 112,000 vehicles cross this bridge every single day. I don't know where they were going before this, but that's a lot. Damn. Okay, should have made these harder. Let's see where we're going. Ray. Okay. The next one is double points. So somebody's got to take them down. Answer quick and double points. Here we go. Which 49er was Super Bowl 23 MVP? Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, or John Taylor? 5 seconds. Ooh, okay. That was a harder one. And anyone who's a Bengals fan, I think they didn't end up in the Super Bowl until like Super Bowl 55 again. KC, very well done. Okay, so those are the 3 questions for now, but there's going to be a couple of more a little bit later on, so pay attention. We're going to get into a quick poll. So this is channel related, and what I would like to start to understand is just how people feel about their incentives and what's going on currently. So this next one, the next 30 minutes could be rough if you answer wrong. Do partner sales team incentives work? No. Feel free to answer how you feel. Yes, no, we don't offer any incentives to our sales reps at our partners specifically, or I'm not sure, haven't really seen it work very well yet. Oh, you're making this too easy for me. Not sure, we don't offer, one person doesn't offer any, no, okay. Here's the second one. Which elements drive the most engagement in your program today? So are you using mostly financial rewards? Are you using non-monetary rewards like travel, top achievers clubs, recognition, things like that? Or maybe you're doing a combination of everything. Oh, interesting. All the above. 62%. Okay. One more. How would your partners grade your partner sales incentive program today? So again, if you were to talk to them, A being it's incredible, we're making tons of money, we don't want to sell anybody else ever again. B, it's great, it's good. C, it's all right. And F, I don't even know where your incentives live. Hoping we see some A's up there, but be honest. Oh, okay. I think people are being modest with B and C. Who's the A out there? Who's the killer? Okay, maybe we can change your mind. But I'd love to talk to you. So with all that being said, I like the mix of, we are using incentives, but primarily they're financial. Two, we do think they work. And three, a combination of, we're using multiple things, but we don't necessarily think our program's an A. So whether you're considering starting a program, these are the things that you're going to run into. They're going to come at you quick. And two, if you're currently running a program, some of these might look a little bit familiar. So the first things first, the top left-hand corner, the inability to define or set clear goals, that's anything in life. But if you, incentives are really about distributing the right type of incentive to meet the objective of the organization, to keep your reps motivated. So think about not just your core imperatives. So if you're launching a specific product or you want to go into a specific market, capture market share, you want to get to market faster, you have to make sure that your partner is on board with that, but also the sales teams have the competencies and their readiness to align with that. And that all starts with the blueprinting process. So I'll actually, which is part of the health check. So really try to look back at your workflows and your processes to avoid these issues before actually executing a program, because you're going to fall into all kinds of trouble if you don't. So the next one, I kind of touched on the inability to form deep or strong connections on the engagement loop. This is a common trap. Just think about trying to get away from that transactional mentality and really think about the competency of the partner, of the sales teams, of the people who are talking to your customers, and provide what's meaningful to them. Now, where I see these programs truly live and die is in the delay in reward and reach and gratification, especially with the individual level. Unfortunately, partners sometimes either skim the top or they don't distribute the incentives properly. So I can't stress enough that if you're going to promise these teams that you're going to pay them on time, you're going to pay them quickly, and you're going to reward them for their efforts, that you have the right tool in place that you can do that. But second of all, what I really want to drive home, and I heard this analogy the other day, the ability to earn gratification and sales momentum is tightly aligned with trust. And trust is really like growing a tree. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources, and for that tree to fully become grown. But that tree can be cut down in one day. So as soon as you stop being transparent in your program, making it easy to understand, you can have the greatest experiences, but if reps are just getting frustrated, it's incredibly difficult to get them back because they're in 5 to 10 other programs that are competing for their mind share. The last one I'll touch on here is more about the inflexibility and rewards or choices. I'm gonna build off of that last panel. Whether you still look at your channel as VARs, MSPs, system integrators, whatever they are now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but really look at the competency in what they're doing and be flexible in what you're providing as that reward. I'll give you a quick example. If one partner is kind of like a VAR, but also an MSP at the same time, the financial side is important, which a lot of you are doing already, but also think about margin protection. Think about other areas that make the long-term success of that partner the forefront. I was doing some work with a company that was focusing on GSIs, so system integrators, multi-million-dollar deals. Movie tickets aren't going to cut it. They also don't really care about spiffs that much. They really care about, I'm working on complex deals. build me an incentive structure that's going to help me close those deals faster. Give me the resources at my fingertips that I can use to close those deals. And that's what's really going to differentiate your program from another one. If they can easily access the people that they need and get that deal done faster with less headache, that means everything. So be flexible in how you reward and also understand who you're targeting. I didn't just add this, but Diane, you mentioned how painful change management is. This is done by a woman named Dr. Mary Lippitt in the 80s, so it's tried and true. And this is kind of a general 5 key elements that work together to drive meaningful change. So in the context of our discussion today, we're talking about incentives and engagement at the sales rep level, but this could be applied to anything. I would like to think when I met my wife, I wasn't confused when I was talking to her, and she understood exactly what my intentions were, but I was more anxious and confused, or I was more anxious, she was more confused at the end of the day. I wasn't lacking incentive. But when it comes to your channel incentive program, I'll start with that perspective, and then we can touch on one other one. If you look at vision being the first one, this is where you can start to address those challenges by thinking about setting up what really matters for your channel partner team. So there's a stat, it's kind of scary, 60% of internal employees don't know their own company's vision. Imagine what your sales force that doesn't work for you thinks. There's a good chance that they really don't understand your value proposition as well as you need them to. And they don't have the materials that they need to be as confident to lead with your solution. So really think about that. The second one is skills. And in the context of this engagement program, it's really about preparing your salespeople with the right knowledge, the right information to the 28 moments. I'm going to start with that. Salespeople are getting involved in the sales cycle much later. If they're not prepared to go into that customer conversation with everything they need about your brand, and they're not loyal to you and they're not leading with you first, it's a really difficult uphill battle to displace who they are leading with and help you kind of differentiate from your competitor. So when you do deploy this training, make sure it's micro training, value proposition based, and then they can become enthusiastic and really become advocates for your solution. Something that you can also think about doing, if you're not doing it already, is gamifying it. 11%, stats show that between 11 to 15% higher retention and completion rates if you add some sort of gamified element. So you can also pay them for completing quizzes. You can give them badges, make it interesting. That is a little tactic that you can consider. The third one is all about incentives. So this is the positive performance piece. 70% of reps are in up to 10 different programs at once. So why yours? It's important that you grab these reps' attention, you retain it, and that you launch your program with a bold incentive to keep their interest long-term and through the entire sales cycle. So if you think back to that engagement loop and who you're targeting, think about, okay, once, I'll bring this up now. I had a customer, their close rate was about 23% without a deal reg. As soon as they got a deal reg, it was 50%. As soon as they got a POC, it was 73%. Basically what we did is we reverse engineered that, putting an incentive at an incentive on their transaction would really just eat into their margins. So what we ended up doing is putting the engagement enablement at the top of the funnel. So in this case, reward for deal reg, reward for training, and reward for putting a proof of concept in place. And then based on the math, the close rates are already high enough.
Hey, Paul. Do you run into scenarios in which companies don't allow their employees to participate in these types of programs?
All the time.
How do you overcome that?
Sometimes you can't. That's the easy answer. But using this change management formula, what I've seen work really well is scale back your program and really identify who you have great relationships with, who are receptive to your programs today. Gather a lot of data, build that database, and start developing use cases, and then take that information and show it to these partners who are a little bit reluctant, and show them that the opportunity that they're missing out on, and go about it that way. I've seen that work really well. It's data-driven decision. It's not emotional. But back to your point, sometimes it's cultural. I don't know if anybody in this room feels this way, but sometimes it's just something that's an immovable object and you just have to move on. But leverage data and use cases. Any other questions on that? I'll finish off on the last two, resources. So this really comes back down to commitment from the top down, money and time, technology and big data. So do you have commitment from your C-suite? Do you have the right budget in place? Because if you don't have these things figured out before you launch your program, reps are only going to get frustrated. They're not going to quite understand what your vision is, and think that their time is worth spent on the program. So at the end, is anybody, before I move to the next slide, which is a poll, by the way, so everybody get ready. Does anybody feel like they have a lot of these things in place and are in a place of change? They're kind of got this all figured out and you're kind of progressing towards your goals? Okay, that was a leading question because the next one is going to test your health on this. So where do you feel like your current program really stands? So if you were to think about the anxiety of your channel partner ecosystem, do reps feel like they could trust spending their time in your program? Do they understand why they should? Are you experiencing growth, but it's really, really slow? So you have a lot of the other components in place. And are you falling into a one-size-fits-all trap? Are you feeling kind of frustrated? And the last one is false starts. So you've got a lot of things in place, but it's just very hard to really difficult to execute. Growth is not fast enough. Interesting. Okay. So let me frame up back to what we're really going to dive into in terms of this health check. I'm going to use some of those answers to try and curate what good looks like, what doesn't work so well. So the next couple of slides are all going to be about these core pillars that I've already reviewed. Relevance, can you scale your program? And thirdly, the data, your ability to measure and monitor your program. So the first one, trying to be everybody's friend. We've touched on some of this through this discussion, but how many of you have significant number of partners in your program that currently are not performing to where you want them to be? That's a loaded question. You don't have to answer that. Incentive programs that offer too much. So you're trying to be everybody's friend. You're trying to be overly complex. Causes a lot of confusion and a lot of customization headaches. And we don't have the IT resources. We don't have the manpower to run spreadsheets. So it's way too much to manage. And if you do too little, it falls flat. So a recommendation that I would make on the right-hand side is really looking at targeting segments to be as relevant as possible. This could be competencies. This could be, if you're still, again, in those tier modes, however you're doing it today, make sure it's role-based and focused on the 3 individuals that are surrounding your customer: the sales rep, the technical people, the sales management, so you can push it from the top down. We did a great case study with an organization that sold printers. So Rob, to your point, there was a lot of reluctancy that if the executive weren't getting a piece of the incentives, they weren't going to push them down. So in our system, we split the incentives. So every time product was sold, 10% went to the management and 90% went to the reps. So we automated that process to remove any sort of barriers or hesitation, which allowed the program to be relevant and hit on the different audiences. The other thing I could suggest is be specific with strategic products, geographies, cultures. Don't try to boil the ocean. So if you've got a product launch coming out, put your incentives and your concentrations on that. Don't create like a dollar store experience that's going to distract reps from a list of SKUs that all have incentives on it because it loses value. Drive their attention and their focus to where you want them to go. That's going to be very helpful. Another thing that I see people fall into in terms of a trap is communicating one way. And that can mean a whole bunch of things. Let's say, for example, I'm a sales rep. Q1 started in January for me. I get an email with a list of spiffs, and those are going to be active for the remaining of the quarter. And I also received 10 other lists. That's gone, and I'm never going to remember it again. So the problem that a lot of organizations have is it's a set it and forget it. It's not anybody's fault. It's just resources and capability. So what I could recommend is think about multi-channel approach. Leverage your channel account managers who are in the field to get anecdotal feedback, but also keep this message in front of them as much as possible, and communicate it often. Launch it at the beginning of the quarter when reps are building pipeline, because that's the most important time. If you launch halfway through a quarter, you're not going to get their attention. They're already focused on closing deals on opportunities that they've built. And again, communicate often. And part of that engagement loop, once the second quarter is about to come, start teasing the next thing to create momentum. The same old spiff. So there's a lot of people running financial incentives, but a lot of people doing lots of different things. Again, the problem with the same old spiff is it's expensive, and you may be eating into margins unnecessarily. And I did just tell the story of that prospect that I had. Once you identify where you truly could use enablement, do that. Tell a story, combine initiatives together. So if anyone's familiar with Impartner's product, which a lot of you are, the journey feature, create an experience from start to end and tell a story and really reel them in from the beginning of the sales cycle to the close to expand and renewal, and reward them along the way. And you can even throw in non-monetary points and rewards to manage your budget. It doesn't always have to be financial. So switch it up depending on what it is. And it's a great way to keep people's attention. So just before I get to the next slide, if people can have their fingers frosty. Before I do that, there is a takeaway, something that you could do right now. Something you could do is run a poll or a survey with your own partner sales team. So pick your top 10, top 20 partners and run a survey amongst the sales reps. Again, you leverage in-person trainings, your channel account managers, and ask 3 questions. Do they value the rewards that are being offered? 2, are they realistic do they feel like it's realistic in terms of its achievability? And 3, do they feel like it's worthy of their performance? So what are you offering? Is it really motivating them? And a pro tip, you can attach an incentive to it. So pay them for completing this and pay them for their time. We see upwards of 80%, 90% completion rates when incentivizing. So with that said, this next slide is going to be a quick question on how everybody feels about their segmentation in their current program. How relevant is your current incentives to your individuals? Are you currently just focusing on the partner type? Are you looking as deep as the role? So do you understand the sales reps, the engineers, customer success people? Maybe you're doing both. And the last one, hopefully not too many people are away from not segmented, but if you're not doing any segmentation, you can let me know. Mostly just the partner type. I was hoping that was going to be the answer. Not really, but I expected it. The second pillar is all about repeatability at scale. So what ends up happening is there's a couple of global program directors in here, or people who run global programs, right? often and too often enough, there's a lot of reactionary ad hoc programs going on. Yeah. I hope you were going to say that. That are very difficult to very difficult to measure and understand if they're working or not. And there's all kinds of variables. People are stubborn. There's unique requirements for each geography. Right now, we're launching a program in India, Japan, and the United States. Holy crap! Couldn't be any more different. So before you do that, try to, again, go back to that blueprint process, go back to a long-term plan, and align with what you truly want to get out of the program for deploying these type of incentives into these markets. Because as soon as you let the cat out of the bag, it's very difficult to get it back. Because if you launch something, people get attached to it. The real pain comes down to fulfilling those payments, keeping people happy, and trying to fulfill on your promises. The second one is overstretching resources. So try not to, again, expand too far into, there's a tipping point when you risk overstretching your internal teams and wasting too much time administering the program versus actually executing outcomes. And there's not a long answer for this one. Automation and focus. You can't be in 2025 without tools in place that are going to help you capture the data and help you scale if you do have that ambition. So where can you start right now? A lot of you have tools in place from what I've understood. So blowing up your tech stack is probably not the move. Takes too long. There's a whole bunch of challenges that come with that. So start with the documentation process. So kind of look back at, again, that blueprint, that fundamental scalability piece. So look at your workflows and your procedures. If you once you do that, you'll be able to really identify where you're running into roadblocks. And from there, if you need to make a change to your features or your tech, it'll become a lot more apparent. So try to put in the time. I know it does take time and some effort. There's people out there that can help you, but really put in that groundwork to understand if your processes and workflows are supporting your tech stack. Another poll. Where do you currently have automation in your partner sales incentives? So we just talked about in that panel a lot about automation in the ecosystem, but are you able to segment your communications to the individuals? Do you have a way to flexibly pay quickly different types of rewards to different personas? Governance compliance, this one's painful. Nobody wants to talk about it, but when you think about taxes and you think about local geography requirements to launch programs, are you able to do that at scale? Manager incentives and all the above. All the above that's awesome. That's a good mix. So last one. This really comes down to data. Okay, we got a couple of minutes here. So the only thing I can say here is get super specific. Treat your incentive data and monitoring techniques like you would in your own business. So are the KPIs measurable? Are they attainable? And is there a timeline? So when you launch your incentives to your reps, be very specific on what you need them to do. Don't make it complicated. Make it super easy to understand and make sure you've got the right tools in place to capture that data. And then from there, be able to turn that data into actionable insights. The second one is not measuring it enough. So I already touched on this a little bit. Measuring once a quarter or once a month, you're really just going to, it's going to get frustrating and it's kind of destined to fail. Really have a detailed plan on how often you're going to measure the KPIs. And this also gives you opportunities to pivot when needed and drive the outcomes you're looking for. So a couple of things that you can consider measuring if you're not already. Take a look at how many participants are registering in your program month over month. Review how many reps from your top partners are active. So what I mean by active is, are they logging in at least, you know, three times a week, 4 times a week, looking at promotions, contests? Are they taking training? Are they consuming content that is measurable, that is kind of a reflection of, hey, you know what? They're thinking of your brand, and you know the inference there is that they're leading with your solution when they go to talk to customers. Measure the average deal size that's coming from your claims. So if you have a claim process already where you're collecting sales invoices and sales out data from the claims from your incentives, what is that average deal size? Is it higher than without incentives? Is it the same? Is it lower? And then also make sure you're measuring the number of trainings that are being completed on a monthly basis from your partners, specifically, again, the reps. So a couple of things that you can consider. Next, so one more poll from the 3 pillars. If you were to rate your measurement abilities today, A, you're killing it. You've got all the details of the individuals at your partners. B, it's good. C, needs some work. And F, you know, you're not doing it at all. All right, quick use case. So keeping in mind relevance, keeping in mind scale and data, I chose this quick example. We worked with a company last year that had 3 different portals for 3 different incentive structures. It was wild. You know, the feedback from partners was, I have no idea what's meaningful to me. I don't know where to find it. It wasn't user-friendly. And back to the point of resources, there was over-promise, under-deliver. The last thing you want to do in sales or customer service. There was a lot promised, but things were not being followed up on. So what we did is we took the program and we scaled it back a little bit. So we looked at, okay, let's make it 1 portal. That's a no-brainer. Number 2, let's look at 1 market that you've identified as a core imperative in your organization that you want to drive growth in. So we doubled down on education, moved budget, moved focus, and we drove campaigns focused on selling PCs, and in this case, also displays to the education market. We updated the UI. We leveraged things like incentivized training. We incentivized the rep and the managers. And what we ended up seeing is a 25% increase in claims, which means sales transacted. And we had an 88% active rep rate. So we had a lot of reps coming back in and wanting to sell. And this is just some quick data, and that is my one shameless plug. So what can you do as things to consider? Looking at change management, looking at the 3 pillars, and designing a better incentive program. Just really think about, you know, referencing that case study, have some clear and attainable goals. If you have to scale it back and you're going to focus on 1 industry, a low-hanging fruit, gather data, do that. Design a blueprint. So if you don't have a blueprint, highly recommend you look at this, which will give you the processes and the workflows. Over-communicate and communicate where they are. So leverage your channel account managers, leverage your partner portals, leverage ImpartNer, however you're communicating today. You know, make it attainable. Analyze the data. So make sure that the data you're getting is not just a bunch of raw data extracts. Make sure it's relevant, or you have the tools in place that you can turn it into something insightful. And then really reward and double down on what reps are doing. So reward them for the equivalent effort that they're putting in. As a health check, what we're doing, this is our process. Feel free to take a picture. I'm going to provide this as a takeaway anyways. We are looking at organizations all the way from the moment of initial collaboration with your channel sales incentive teams, all the way through looking at your reward types, the partner types, the competencies in your ecosystem, working with ImpartNer to make data fuller, to provide a clear path to ROI, looking at your reports, and then we'll spit out a blueprint, and it's something that you can take and execute against. And we're doing that over the next couple of weeks, and we'll spend a couple of hours with you to do that. So quiz, this is where you're gonna make some money. The infamous Birdman of Alcatraz was Richard Stevens, Al Capone, Robert Stroud, or Larry Bird? We're back to the exciting part. I caught you off guard. Sorry, I didn't prompt you. Ooh. Who's in first? Oh, we got a new leader. Okay. There's two more. I believe there's two more. Still opportunity. True or false? The San Francisco Giants have won 8 World Series titles and 23 National League pennants. True or false? Oh, we got some good ones. It is a trick question. KC. Guys, there's one more opportunity here. It's double points or KC's taking it. All right, here we go. So, which iconic product was invented right here in San Francisco? Was it the Big Pen, Levi's jeans, sporting them today, Coca-Cola, or Crazy Glue? Wow, well done. Moment of suspense. This is on your table. Dun, dun, dun. Feel free to connect. I'm happy to talk to anybody about some areas and in terms of where you are in your program, anything that we could do to help. Of course, I'm open to do that. We work closely with ImPartner, so there's a lot of opportunities together to make your program a little bit better. So here we go. Just before lunch, who is number 3? Gail. Round of applause. Nailed it. Donnie, number 2. Number 1. Who's it going to be? KC. Kept the title. Ray dropped to 5. What happened? What happened, buddy? Thank you, everybody. That's everything, and I appreciate the time, and you get to go to lunch early.